New York Governor Andrew Cuomo had some things to say about people that are traveling to New York, and it impacts college football in Oklahoma. We got to talk about it after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step milk. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, we need to talk about Oklahoma and New York. Why? Because the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, added Oklahoma to a list of 19 states for which he has said if you are an incoming traveler from those states, of which, again, Oklahoma is one, you have to quarantine for 14 days before you can do anything else in the state of New York. Many of you know Oklahoma is scheduled to play Army on September 26th in West Point, New York. Now, exactly 14 days before that day, Oklahoma is playing Tennessee in Norman. So forget fans, forget whether or not you could somehow attend both Tennessee and Army, assuming that they allow fans in the stands at this point. How the hell are you going to quarantine the kids if they're playing on a day for which they need to be in quarantine to be able to play 14 days later in West Point at Michie Stadium? It's a very big deal. It's a very big game for both Oklahoma and Army fans. I know quite a few folks that have already had that circled on their calendar for years and have really had to think about whether or not they want to go to that game. And the folks that I know that are still planning to go to that game might actually have to call it off now because Cuomo has said, look, coming from these states, you got to be quarantined. However, that's the bad news. The good news is this, and I'm going to read this directly from the New York government website, okay? This is at governor.ny.gov. Following him saying, we're adding Oklahoma, Delaware, and Kansas to this list. The quarantine applies to any person arriving from a state with a positive test rate higher than 10 per 100,000 residents over a 7-day rolling average, or a state with a 10% or higher positivity rate over a 7-day rolling average. Means Oklahomans, wear a damn mask, because wearing a mask cuts that rate down. And if you cut that rate down in time for football season, Oklahoma can get off this list, and then Oklahoma can play Army. And this news is coming on the same day that the State Fair of Texas has canceled State Fair for the first time since World War II. It's only happened a couple times before then. 2 of those were because they were getting ready for exhibitions, right? The other one was, of course, World War I. Now, what that means for OU Texas is nothing right now, because Chris Del Conte, who is the athletic director at the University of Texas, has said, we fully plan on playing Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl in 2020. For his part, Joe Castiglione said, hey, look, we're monitoring the situation. All we can do right now is follow the CDC's guidelines, which we encourage everyone to do. So, good news there is that OU Texas is on. Bad news is State Fair is off. And we're going to see more of that throughout this calendar year. But as these things continue to mount up, the one thing that most folks can agree on, both from an economic standpoint and from a public health standpoint, is that when you are in public, when you're in mass area, you need to be wearing a mask, because wearing a mask cuts down the spread of the virus and infection. And if we cut down the spread of the virus and infection, we lower the number of cases. And when we lower the number of cases, we get back to doing the stuff that we actually want to do. So if that means that you got to go through the rest of this year wearing a mask, you better if you actually want to have football in the fall. There are a number of people that are already resigning themselves to the idea of not having any football. Either one, because they don't want to be let down, or two, because they think that they are just being fatalistic and they're calling it like it is. I'm not prepared to say either way on this. I do know this. If you are an adult and you are not wearing a mask, don't be the person that's acting like a jackass. If you're an adult out in public shopping and stuff, wear a mask. If you don't have a mask, that's another issue altogether, right? But wear a mask if you want football. That's the long and the short of it on that, right? Because we're seeing that the masks work. And we're having this discussion about whether or not the mask is emasculating or how the mask somehow changes our behavior. Nah, man, superheroes wear masks. Hello? Like, my mask has superheroes on it because I'm a huge superhero nerd. And as much as I want to talk about college football and I want to talk about the X's and O's of the games and I want to get into the depth charts and I want to talk about Ohio State and Oklahoma and Texas and Notre Dame and Clemson and everybody, it's moot if we don't get back to playing football. Now, we're going to get back to playing football. It's just a matter of whether or not we're going to do it in the fall or in the spring. But what we know for certain right now is that we're not likely to have football if the virus cases continue to grow in the way that they are. Because public health officials have said, look, we're going to overwhelm our healthcare system. And if we overwhelm our healthcare system, that could be catastrophic. That could mean people that had no virus could die of something that they could have been cured of or prevented in the first place, whether it be an infection from a broken leg or a gunshot wound, or perhaps you just crack your head open trying to do a kickflip in the concrete on your driveway and your mom has to take you to the hospital and you can't get seen because we're overwhelmed by COVID cases and those are the only people that are getting treated right now, which is what we were looking at just a couple of months ago. At this time when the United States is responsible for 4% of the world's population, just 4%. We're responsible for 25% of the coronavirus cases worldwide. Because for whatever reason, we have decided that our economics are much more important than our people. And for the folks that don't think that this is a big deal, that want to treat it like the flu, you're speaking from a position of privilege. That's wrong. There are people that are much worse off than you are. And those people need to be looked after and not put in harm's way. We all got to work. We all live in a capitalistic economy. We all understand the value of money in this time when money is tight and people don't have jobs. But there is no labor workforce if people are dying. And it's not even as if we're talking about whether you die or not. There's levels to this. Anybody that's ever been to the hospital knows how much it costs to go to the hospital. And if you never had insurance, yeah, you know exactly how much it costs to go to the hospital. And you want to prevent that. And anything you can do to prevent going to a hospital to run up a high bill, you're going to do. If you have great insurance, great for you. Most people don't, which is another healthcare and policy debate. But all of this comes back to the things that we like. Because sports is the reward of a functioning society. Right now, we are not a functioning society. We have the pandemic that is growing every day, and we have our own social justice issues, which are coming to a head in large part because of how we have not got this pandemic under control and because a disproportionate number of folks have been really in harm's way over this, either one, protest, or two, protesting going, what good is it if I am alive in 2 or 3 years if I'm still subject to police brutality? What good is it to get the virus and be, okay if I got to go back to the way that things were, because the way that things work for so many folks in this country is not the way that they should be, and certainly not the way that it's written into law. So we're dealing with all of this at once. And as much as it sucks to say this, individuals coming together to do big things is what we have been doing, right? And somehow we can't get it around our thick skulls or get it through our thick skulls that the best thing for us to do right now is to try to take care of each other. And the way to take care of each other personally is to wear a mask, is to limit how often we go out and where we go out, and to take some individual responsibility and let ourselves be okay with not having all the things that we so desperately want and desire right away, so we can have those things down the line sooner rather than later. All right, that's it for me. Doses.